third month, I was like, please take me home.
Really?
Yeah, I called my parents crying. I was like, I cannot do this. But that excitement then turned into fear. I started to think, okay, will I be able to do this? I came here and I was like, oh my God, what is this? Anyways, so then I was driving and I was like, this is where the money is at. This is the place, like it's a gold mine. I think 1 or 2 months in, my biggest deal came through and it was like over 70 million.
Karina, welcome to Past, Present, Future. Thank you for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
If you could, please just introduce yourself and what you do.
Sure. Well, my name is Karina. I was born in Kazakhstan. I grew up in US. In Dubai, I've been for a couple of years now, and I do real estate investments, primarily focused on investments. So I would have financial portfolios, and I would help my clients make money, basically. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. So instead of starting at the beginning, we're going to start slightly before the beginning. So if you could just tell me a little something about your parents, what they were like and what they did, as much as you can go into.
Sure. Well, I had a very blessed life. I'm an only child. And, my parents, I love them to death. They gave me everything and more that a parent can give. They put me through school, through a good university. They are my biggest support system. They're just my best friends.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Okay. So early childhood, how long were you in Kazakhstan before moving to America?
Sure, yeah. So I was in Kazakhstan until like 11. So let's say grade 8. And then for high school, I moved to US. And that's kind of how I...
So I grew up in London, and there's not a massive Central Asian community there.
Right.
Moving to Dubai is when I first started to meet people from the region. 100%, yeah. So kind of, what is the country like, or maybe what was the city like, if you could kind of describe it?
Sure, but first, it's very interesting that you're saying you didn't see that many Central Asians, because growing up, it was 2 destinations, either London or US.
Okay.
So a lot of my friends studied in London and they lived in London.
Really?
So, yeah. Listen, Kazakhstan is a very interesting country. We are Central Asians, so we do look a bit more Asian, but we speak Russian because we were part of USSR. It was very interesting, and it was very different. Like I don't know how to explain it better, but just like different, because it's very conservative. There are different traditions. There's a different mentality altogether. So it was nice. Yeah.
And so moving to the US at around 11 years old, at that age, was it your choice? I'm assuming it was a parent's choice, or?
It was kind of both. To be honest, I still precisely remember the time I was applying. And, when you apply, you still don't know. Like, it's not there. But when the time came, my parents were like, no, please don't go. Like, we don't know what's going to happen, you know. Because it was a boarding school.
Okay.
So they would not live with me. And, of course, it was hard for them. And I can understand that. But for me, I always knew that no matter how much I love my country and how much I respect the people there, it's still not as developed as US. And I made this decision like quite early on, that I said, okay, I want to start early, and I would much rather like struggle now at a very early age, but then I would be fluent in English. I would understand different parts of the world. I would see different kind of people, and I would understand their perspective as well, because it's a big life lesson, So it was my decision at the end to push for it. But of course, without my parents, I wouldn't have been able to do it.
That's a very mature way of thinking and decision to make at 11 years old. Well, I'm assuming even 10, because it's not like it happens in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you've always had the mature mentality, or is it something instilled in you or something you're born with?
I think it's partially because I was the only child.
Okay.
You know, so I was always treated by my parents as the third person, not just like a kid.
Got you.
And that helped me a lot. And I also, because of this, I participated in like talks and conversations and politics. And I saw more to the country than I realized, you know? At 11, you don't think about what kind of job and salary you can get, you know? It's something so far away. But at that age, because of my parents and because of the way I was raised, these are the thoughts that I was thinking. Okay, by 25, how much can I earn, right? Like, what future do I have here? Is this something I want? And that's it.
What's funny or interesting about that is I've come across 25-year-olds who still don't even think about that. So to be like a 10 or 11-year-old is like really kind of forward thinking. But I think it says a lot about, okay, being the only child. I've only just thought about this now, but it makes sense that an only child is outnumbered by grown-ups. Whereas normally if you've got 3 or 4 children,
you would go there,
and you're kind of doing your own thing. So it kind of makes sense for an only child to be quite mature. You said something about how your parents raised you. How did they raise you? What were the kind of, what was instilled in you? What was...
Yeah. I mean, it's, again, every household is different, right? And my parents always taught me to put myself first, you know, to always think of what's better for me and understand that life is not easy. It's not La La Land. You know, there's a big misconception about the only children being brats and spoiled and overloved. Yes, I was overloved and I was given all the attention, but at the same time, the way they did it is I always knew the value of things that I was getting. You know, so for me, I was blessed with a very happy childhood. I was provided for everything, but I also knew that, you know, let's say this bag that you take for school, this didn't just fall from the sky. You know, the school that you go to, it didn't just appear.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work. And now that I'm getting older and I'm starting to think about my family and like future, it's tremendous work. And, you know, my parents got married when they were 20. I'm 25 and I still don't feel like I'm ready fully, you know? So that's primed me to be a bit like, okay, this is the reality. And I always was taught that, Karina, we're not here forever. Sooner or later, like this is just life, right? So what are you going to do then? You're free to do whatever you want. We're not going to stop you. We're going to support you. But just always think about that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you touched down in America. Where in America were you?
It was, the state is New Hampshire. So it's right next to Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
If you know about Dartmouth University, it's in a very small city. Well, not even a city, a town. Vermont, New Hampshire, all of that. It's like a village. My school was like huge land and there's nothing around. So that was a shock.
Culture shock.
Absolutely, that was like a culture shock. I remember by like 3rd month, I was like, please take me home.
Really?
Yeah, I called my parents crying. I was like, I cannot do this. It's extremely cold. I mean, I come from a country where there's seasons, like so it gets very cold in the winter, but that was a different kind of cold. I was young. I was the only one who spoke Russian in the whole school.
How was your English at this point?
It's not where it is right now.
Okay.
I precisely remember the time somebody came up to me and they were like, "What's up?" And I was like, "The sky." You know, so like this was the level that I was at.
Got you. So very literal. It was very...
Yes, it was very like a school taught. Like I knew grammar. I knew how to say things, but slang and like understanding how to talk, that was difficult. I felt extremely stupid.
Were you scared? Were you nervous?
Yes, of course.
Any excitement, or was it all?
I was excited. I remember when I was flying there because it's still new, I didn't know. But that excitement then turned into fear. I started to think, okay, will I be able to do this? Right? And, you're a kid, you're 11 years old. You have insecurities. You're just hitting like teenage, all of that stuff. That piled up on top of it. And, of course, you don't want to be judged. You don't want to be looked at like, what the hell is this, So, yeah, it blended it with fear, a little bit of nervousness, but it's okay.
And so what was at that time, what would you say got you through it? Because you called and you said, no, I want to come home.
Yeah.
What got you through it? What was your purpose? What was your drive? What was your mind thinking through that period?
I think it's just the way I am. Like, I'm always like this with anything I do. So I gave myself a year. I said, you know what? Let me try. Let me squeeze as much as I can out of it, as much as I can out of myself. If it doesn't work, okay. But I also am very competitive. I don't like to fail. I like to hold my position in front of people at a very high level. And for me, it was more like, okay, I want to prove it to myself, but I also want to prove it to other people. This is what got me through it, yeah.
And so at this time, how quickly did you pick up the language? How quickly did you feel that you did fit in, if you ever feel like you fit in? Because some people, in different countries, they don't
honestly
feel like that.
never thought that I fit in.
There, in America.
Yeah. And it's not because if it was America or any other place. I think it was just my way of maturing and growing up. I never felt like I was 100% comfortable.
Even before moving? Even in Kazakhstan?
Even before moving, yeah.
Okay.
And I picked it up quite fast. Again, because I was the only one who spoke Russian.
And it's survival, I guess.
Yeah, so, if you throw someone, like they say the best way to learn a language is to just go into that environment and be there without using your native language. And that's what helped me. Because the only people I could talk to were my parents, mostly, and that's it. And my school was strict. We would have curfews and, Wi-Fi would go off at like 9 or 8. So... it primed me and it pushed me. So it was quite fast, actually, yeah.
From that experience, what do you say the best things that you learned, or the most important things you learned from that experience? Because that is a big experience. To go from, 11 years old, to go from, Kazakhstan, to go to a whole different country. You don't speak the language, completely alone, is a very, very big step.
Yeah.
What would you say are the major things you learned from that experience?
To always count on myself. That was the biggest one.
So an independence mentality.
And that's why I was able to survive for the next 8-9 years there. And that's why I'm able to survive here alone. I think that was the biggest lesson. Put aside, diplomas, whatever, the knowledge that I gained, put that aside. Real life experience is to be on your own. And it's true, they say, until you find peace in yourself and you're comfortable, like, within you, that's it. There's no place you will ever find that from other people.
Nothing external, it's all internal, right? Okay, so at what point did you choose a career path or choose a specific educational route that you were going to go down?
Yeah, no, I always had this. My grandmother was a doctor. And she passed away when I was quite young. I was 3 years old, and this is the only memory I have of being that young, So I always looked up to her, and I always was fascinated by it. And I knew from even before I went to America, I said, okay, I want to be in medicine. That was my goal. So, and then, when I was graduating, so there's different medical paths. You can either go into clinical or you can go into research. I wanted to go into clinical and be a neurosurgeon, but that is a long time to study, especially in US. You have to do your bachelor's, which is 4 years, right? And then on top of that, you have to do 7 years of med school.
It's a very long time.
Yeah. So for example, like in Kazakhstan, if you go out of high school, you can go straight to med school, which cuts down. But in US, it's different. So then I said, okay, you know what? Let me reassess. I'm still interested in this topic, but maybe not 7 years because, again, going back to traditions, going back to the way Kazakhstan is and the mentality is, like, you're expected to get married. You know, you're expected to have a family. All of my friends who are back home, they already have a kid at my age, you know? So it's very different life paths and timelines. So I said, okay, let me go into research. I studied neuroscience as bachelor's and public health. And then I did, on top of that, master's as well. Because I really do believe that, you know, having an education and a diploma is very important. I know now in Dubai and with real estate, especially what I'm doing, this is very contradicting.
Of course.
But it is very important, and it is like a golden ticket to life. Because even if, you know, you want to enter a field, they will always look at where you studied outside of real estate.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I kind of wanted to secure myself. And then by the time I was graduating, it was 2020. And COVID happened.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah.
So break down for me the basics of neuroscience. What is that? What are you studying essentially there?
Yeah, so you're basically studying the brain and, you know, the neurons. Basically everything we do, from movement to thinking, whatever, it all links up to chemicals and balances and how it works inside. And for me, I wanted to do something meaningful. So I wrote a paper on Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is part of the whole big section of dementia, right? And for me, that is absolutely fascinating because we have this organ in our body, but we still don't understand it. You know, not even like 50%, which is so interesting, you know, and the way that the medicine can go in the future, like we don't know. So I decided to do that and I studied it, and it was a choice between Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. And Parkinson's is a bit different, but yeah, I wrote a paper on Alzheimer's, and you know, I did internships at the hospital, and like I knew that I'm gonna go this way, and I could see myself doing research and you know, being present at the surgeries and looking at stuff. But yeah.
Is there anything from what you studied? How many years did you study that exactly?
4 years.
4 years, okay.
Yeah.
Anything from that helps you in your day-to-day life? Is there, or is it with people? Because the brain is, as you said, very, very interesting. But are there any hacks, or is there any kind of, I don't know, things that you can see in people or in yourself, or?
Yeah, I mean, listen, besides the whole like biology of the subject, there's also psychology.
Okay. Which you studied also, right?
Yes, of course. I had to take it. And that was absolutely like mind-blowing for me. Because not only it allowed me to like understand the person who's sitting in front of me, not fully, of course, but little things I could pick up.
Okay.
But most importantly, it allowed me to understand myself.
Of course.
You know, so that's another stepping stone.
Of course.
And yeah, it helps me day to day, even in real estate, you know. Purchasing something is an emotional action. For a person to be able to put down money and say, okay, I'm good. There's something inside besides the whole facts. I can give you all the facts, all the numbers, but inside, if you don't feel like it, and if I cannot make you comfortable with me, there's no deal.
Exactly.
And that happens with everything: friendships, relationships, business, you know?
Pardon me. So would you say that comfort is the most important emotion when buying and selling, or is there another trigger that's as important as that?
I think it's not comfort. I think it's more, okay.
Trust?
Yes. It's feeling comfortable with the person, right? Because if, like, the clients that I have now that I've been with for years, they don't even ask me what are the facts, numbers, whatever. They trust me blindly because they know that I will suggest the best things for them. So trust is the most important thing.
Got you.
When you're trustworthy, they will open up to you. They'll be vulnerable with you. They will tell you, okay, this is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I'm not. I think trust is very important.
Okay. It makes a lot of sense. Yeah, if someone's spending a load of money on something, especially a big house, it makes... With the neuroscience, so say you studied the 7 or however many years it was, what job would you end up in? What is the end goal of that degree or that?
Yeah, I mean, the end goal would be clinical research, of course, and there are gradations and levels to, how much you would earn. But if you put a big umbrella on it, I would say just research. Okay. So writing papers, being published, being invited, whatever, like making something that will bring a difference to the community. Because clinical research is so close to like surgeons because they're interactive. So that would be the end. And
is that something that always came very naturally to you? Or is it, no, I want to do this, so I'm going to work at it?
Yeah. Okay. Honestly, I always saw myself as a business owner. Okay. No matter what path, even with clinical research, I just saw myself, okay, I will understand this and then I will create something, whether it's a research center, whether it's like a clinic, but I would be the boss. So I never saw myself hustling and working for someone else. I always knew that I want to be my own boss.
And where does that come from? Where
my
is
dad.
That from? Okay.
Yes. So my dad is a big role model for me. He always taught me. Even now, I still remember when I was young, he would draw like very simple graphs for me. And he would be like, listen, here's the line of a salaried person, right? And then you go promotion, promotion, promotion. And there's a boss here. You will never, ever reach that same level because that's just not how it works. Nobody wants someone at the same level. So you're always capped. Why do you want to do that? Okay, if you do your own thing, maybe you're not going to go like this. Maybe you're going to stay like this. But one day you're going to go up and there's no limit.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, and he does that every day, So for me, I was like, okay, done.
It's there, it's instilled, it's there, and...
It's done. Like, this is the way I want to be. Yeah.
I feel that focus is very important. Right. And I think that from everything that you've said, you don't seem like somebody who gets distracted very easily or is able to really focus and ignore the distractions.
I don't really think it's like being able to focus, because I always thought that I procrastinate a lot.
Okay.
And I cannot sit in one place for a long time. I think it's more about being able to see the bigger picture and kind of understand that it's not focus, it's consistency.
Got you.
So you can do different little things as long as they all kind of blend in together. And if you do it consistently, something will come out of it.
So if you add a few bricks every day, eventually you'll have a house or a wall or something.
Yes, and it's not like I'm focusing on that specific brick.
Yeah.
It's just like, I know it needs to go there.
Yeah.
So let me put it there and then I'll do whatever.
Okay, so at some point, you end up relocating to Dubai somehow.
Right.
How did that come about? Especially when you were on a completely different path.
Actually, Dubai was never even in my plans. I remember I was here maybe 2007 with my parents, and I hated it. I was like, what is this place? Like, it's all Arabs there. It was still very conservative. There was no Burj Khalifa, like no lavish lifestyle. And I thought, oh my God, like, this is horrible, you know, like, this is what they do to women, like, whatever. Because I was still a kid. I didn't understand. And then COVID happened. I graduated. Everything just kind of was put on pause. And I think I was probably the first one who got COVID. Like, I remember flying back from home and I felt so sick and I couldn't understand. And I went to the hospital and they were like, we don't know what it is. It's flu. I said, okay, it's not flu. But anyways, and then a couple of weeks later, you know, they started announcing like, okay, something's happening. You stay at home.
So when was this? What month of, I'm assuming 2020?
So January, 2020 January, I flew back in. By March 16th is my birthday. I remember that time I had a whole like group of people coming and most of them were sick. So they're like, no, and we're not going to come because, you know, there was an order to stay at home.
And this is in Kazakhstan, right?
No, this is in
the
US.
US.
This is still in US in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
So obviously, you know, like Department of Health issued the whole thing. We don't know what it is. Something is happening. So I said, okay. End of March, I moved back because I was like, I'm not going to stay here. I don't know what is happening. You know, people are getting sick at home. I want to be with my parents.
Of course.
So I came back and then May comes. I'm like, okay, cool. We have graduation online. I'm like, okay, great, sweet. This is not how I imagined it, but okay. I never got my gown, actually.
Really?
Yeah. I
okay,
never
send them an email now.
I only had my cap, and then that's it. And we had the whole Zoom thing. And then later on, year after, 2021, when things started to mellow down, Dubai was the only place you could travel to. And it's so close, it's like 4 hours from us. So me and my friends were like, you know what, we're going to go for a week. I came here and I was like, oh my God, what is this? You know, like I've never seen, and because I'm older now and I can see things and, you know, I know what it's like to work and I know what kind of people there are, whatever. I saw this and I'm like, I remember precisely, I was going Sheikh Zayed, and at that time, I was like, Dubai is huge. I was like, it takes like 20 minutes from downtown to go to Palm, and then from Palm go to back. Anyways, so then I was driving and I was like, this is where the money is at. This is the place, like it's a gold mine. Maybe it's not the place, I still don't think it's the place for me to raise my family. Maybe it will change. But this is the place now. So I came back. I told my parents, I'm like, listen, I don't know why, but I think I need to be in Dubai. And they're like, why? Like, no. What are you doing? And my dad was like, what are you going to do there? I'm like, I don't know. I saw a lot of, I had a friend who lived here. And I asked her, I'm like, what do people do? Like, what's the demographic? Like, you know, what the industry that's booming, right? Medicine, I've never seen anything like spectacular or Dubai being known for a medical city, whatever, or research. She's like, oh, it's real estate. I'm like, well, I have never sold anything in my life. I don't know how to sell. Like, even if you give me a pen now, I wouldn't be able to sell it. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I started applying, LinkedIn, everything. I didn't even know the hierarchy or anything about the industry. I just applied everywhere. Got onto interviews. One company was like, come, whatever, we'll do this. It's recruitment, it's training. I said, okay. But then I didn't join. I joined a different company. Yeah.
What was it? Because you're into data, you're into research, and what was the reason for joining the company that you did join and not the other companies?
So it wasn't more like about the company. It was more of just like, I will go. just a stepping stone. Just let me get inside.
So actually, but the company you chose, there wasn't anything special about it. It was just, okay, this is my foot in. I don't care where I'm. And
yes. I mean, I looked at like hierarchy of top, I don't know, 20, whatever. And I chose, that was my first job. And they were Russian speakers, you know, they seemed to have very good marketing. I was blown away by all the videos. I've never seen anything like this. So I was like, okay, screw it. You know, let's try.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you're now in a completely different industry. As you said, you've never sold anything in your life.
Never, yeah.
What are you thinking? What's your game plan? What's your strategy?
Yeah, honestly, I just came in, and I am not an introvert, but I was never the first one to talk. So I would never approach someone and start conversation. But that pushed me even more to grow as a person. So I just started talking to the colleagues, and I'm like, what do you do? What's that? What's that? You know, like just as a kid, coming and asking everything. I was probably in my manager's office every 10 minutes. And as I understood, I'm like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This is the resource, whatever. And then again, I started talking to my dad, and I'm like, Dad, I don't know. You know, I want to be my own boss, but will I be able to do it here? Like, is that the right choice? And my dad told me, go read Robert Kiyosaki. And I was like, okay. So I went and I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I read Investment, How to Invest. And then he's like, okay, go read Grant Cardone. Go watch, at least. I'm like, okay. So I did that. I read 10x, whatever. And I'm like, Dad, I don't understand. Like, what are you trying to tell me? And he's like, listen, if you want to own a McDonald's, what's the best way to approach it? I'm like, I don't know. Like, go find someone who's selling a franchise. He's like, no. He's like, to understand the business, you have to be inside. You want to understand how McDonald's work? Go work in McDonald's. And I was like, And then he's like, remember Monopoly? I'm like, yeah. He's like, this is life. And he's like, the more you understand about properties, cash flow, finances, this is where you're going to end up. So if you want to own properties, hotels, buildings, whatever, you have to know this. If you don't know, you will never, ever be able to be successful. No one will be able to take you seriously. And I was like, oh. And I was like, smart.
So how long was that learning period for you? Did you say, okay, this is study time? And were you still focusing on sales, or were you like, no, I'm going to learn, I'm going to get a degree in this and then start to sell? Was it a studied period for you? Or?
I've never considered it to be a steady period because I think I don't have time.
Got you.
Ever since I got here, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sell and I'm going to learn as I sell. My first sale, my first rent, this is where I learned the most. No matter how much I read, no matter what I analyzed, once you're in front of the person, only then you know how to pitch. And I'm a strong believer in the fact that pitches that like a lot of agencies are teaching consultants to do, it doesn't work.
Why? What's wrong with the pitches?
Because it's standard. I'm just thinking from my perspective, okay? If somebody approached me with the same, hi, how are you? Want to buy property? I'll be like, no. Or if somebody came to me and like, yeah, you should buy MR because it's MR. I'll be like, no. Like, it just doesn't work, you know? I would never be comfortable or even interested if somebody approached me that way. So why should I do it to someone else?
So what was your approach? What did you learn? Or what worked for you the best? Because I definitely believe that you learn a lot more from losses than wins.
Right, of course.
And a lot of people are very scared for the losses and avoid anything where they're going to lose, therefore they don't grow, they don't learn. Whereas if you do just go in head first, every time you get a no, you start to kind of analyze and work out. So what did work for you?
For me, just the basics, honestly. I became friends. My goal was not to sell. My goal was not to come and pick up my commission, because I knew that once people trust me, this will come. This is just like an extra bonus.
So actually building relationships is the key.
Of course. And everybody keeps saying that, but not everyone understands it. You know,
what do you think that is? Why?
Because people are desperate.
Okay, it's desperation.
Yeah. And I understand, like, there's nothing wrong with it, but you have to kind of pick yourself up and also have pride. You cannot be like, you're not a salesperson. You're not someone who's like, you are in customer service, but you're not a customer service representative. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you actually know your stuff, you know numbers, you can analyze things to the point where you're able to make the right decision for yourself, someone should be able to see that value in you.
Got you.
And people never like to be sold. Nothing.
Of course.
You know, even in Dubai Mall, if people are like at the stand, come, smell this, hi. No.
Yeah.
You will tell them, go away. So it's the same thing.
Okay, so how long have you been doing it now?
2.5 years.
What was the first big milestone?
Yeah, the first actually was, it was 3 months in. So my time at was very short. I didn't like it. I switched. I went to didn't like it either. It just wasn't my cup of tea. Then I went to because I had friends there. And yeah, 3 months in, or like, no, actually, I think it's even less. I think 1 or 2 months in, my biggest deal came through, and it was like over 70 million in 1 hour. It was at 8 p.m. I was meeting a friend that I met through another friend at dinner. I just saw them with his partner in the elevator in Marina Plaza. So they exchanged numbers. They're like, hi, whatever. And the next day, he's like, I want to take a look, because he was looking for his friend who was not even here. So automatically, there was no expectation for me or for him to buy anything. You know, I never even expected it. I just said, okay, let's say John, he's looking for this. Why don't you propose this one to him? We went, I think, at 7:30. We stayed there until 9. We closed like 7 units. Yeah.
Mad.
Yeah. And it was all only because this guy and his partner didn't see in me the fact that I want to sell.
Got you.
Because they have properties already. So that means they worked with someone else.
Got you.
You know?
So what is the biggest mistake that you see people in real estate making in Dubai?
They lift their nose up. Let's not be, quiet about it. There's big money in real estate. It's not cheap. And the commission you're getting, if you've never had money before, it's a big sum. And it's a very big temptation, especially in Dubai, to, buy a car, buy a watch, whatever. It goes so easily out just to impress someone else. But a lot of people forget that one-time success is not forever. It's actually harder. Once I reach that step, every day I'm like, if I don't do even close to this, I'm failing. And a lot of people kind of put their legs up. They say, okay, it's enough, whatever. Let me enjoy life. This is the biggest mistake I think you can make in real estate and in any job. Once you start feeling like, okay,
comfortable. I think comfort is a big...
You stop seeking it. You stop looking for opportunities. And it doesn't happen. Because why would it happen?
I think, especially in your industry, networking is very important.
Yes.
What are the keys to networking?
I think you just have to be a good person. I really do believe that it doesn't really matter, like, who you are in terms of financial status or the circle that you're in. I just think you have to be very open to receiving that. And in Dubai, and especially being a girl, I learned that very early on. You have to be very distinctive of, okay, when to say no and when to give it a chance. Because sometimes when you give it a chance, it might turn out completely different from what you expected it to be. And and that's how you get to know people. You get to know one person. You show them that, okay, you know what, I'm interested in business or whatever. This is who I am. And then later on, you get to know other people. And especially in Dubai, I feel like social media is quite heavy, more than maybe like, I don't know, more than DC, 100%.
Really?
And that helps a lot.
So you've built your social media to a really good following. How is that another thing you strategize? Is that something you really planned for, or?
So I started doing like blogging when COVID happened. So it was kind of for me like, okay, maybe I can learn how to monetize social media, right? Because I spend my time watching YouTube. Exactly. I go to YouTube if I want to learn something, you know. And Instagram is picking up and everyone's using it. And I started doing it just about lifestyle. Nothing special. But I learned how to present. For example, I put effort into how I do my stories. I put effort in what I write under the post. I put effort into what I film. So I started approaching it differently before I came to Dubai. And then in Dubai, I think I came with like 150,000. And yeah, it grew.
How quickly did you get to 150K?
Maybe like a year.
And is there any any major reasons that you can pinpoint? Of course, maybe consistency, and as you said, you took a lot of effort into these little bits and pieces. But was there any other things that kind of?
I was just with people that are present, like people that people know of.
Got you.
With like millions of subscribers.
Okay, so yeah.
So, of course, that was the first point of someone clicking on it, seeing me there.
And then
who is that? And then they transfer. But it was hard because at that point I didn't talk much about real estate on my page, you know, and I didn't showcase what I am actually. So the retention was smaller.
Got you.
But it got the name out.
Got you. Okay, so now maybe more onto future things. What are you planning? What's the strategy and the plan for the future now?
Yeah, listen, I don't like to talk much about like big plans. I don't like to say it until I do them because I strongly believe in evil eye, intentional or not intentional. It's there. And I don't like to overpromise or say something, which then if I don't deliver, I will feel bad.
So it's more, how do you say, personal goals.
So I can say that, okay, in the future, of course, I see myself closing more deals and building up my own portfolio bigger. And I want to shape the real estate industry from what it is now to a bit more of a professional, because living in US, of course, there is real estate as well there, you know, but it's completely different. What I saw in Dubai is a zoo. It is a zoo and it's not regulated to the point that it should be. There's still room to grow. And a lot of people treat this job as just an easy way to make money because they think it's, you know, you just come connect two people and then that's it. That's how you make your buck. I want to show not only to agents, but also to people who are investing here that there's a difference to real estate. There's a difference between being a broker and being an actual expert.
Got you.
So that's why, you know, I love doing like analysis and trends and insights and numbers, because that's what makes you an expert. Not saying how beautiful this home is. Everyone knows that it's beautiful.
Got you. And I guess that goes with, that helps with trust again, right? Because
it's
the
credibility.
second somebody hears you,
Yeah, it's credibility.
You're not selling homes now at the moment, are you? You're still selling homes because you said off camera that you're doing something slightly different.
Yeah, I mean, if the client wants, who am I to tell them no, right? Like if my client comes to me and says, I want to relocate, of course I will be able to help them. But this is not my forte because I'm very straightforward and I like facts. When you choose a home, you don't look at facts, you look at how you feel.
It's more
Can you envision it?
Yeah.
You know, like, will your kids like it? I'm not a magician. I don't have a magic wand. I cannot replace this, do this, whatever the client wants. So for me, I enjoy personally investments. You do it solely for money. That's it. Yeah.
And I guess that works with the data and
yes,
everything
of course.
that you're kind of into, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see the Dubai real estate industry going? I know you said you're trying to shape it.
Yeah.
But from everything you've seen in the last couple of years, where do you see it going? I mean, it feels super oversaturated. It feels like there is a million real estate agents. Yeah. And I think that is partly because all of them, some, if not all of the roles are zero salary and 100% commission. So essentially, there is no, there's no limit. Anyone can do it.
Yeah.
So where do you see it moving in the next few years?
Listen, there's two paths, economically and like as an industry, right? As an industry itself, I think a lot of newly established companies will close. We already see that. And a lot of agents, if they start to implement stronger rules and regulations, these agents will not be able to survive. You know, I think before COVID, you didn't have to take a test for RERA, like to get a broker's license because they suspended it or something. So in that time, imagine how many people came. And what do they know?
Yeah.
Nothing. Right? Or like 5%.
Barely.
Yeah. So I'm sure that they're going to do that because it's a big, big issue. Because it ruins the credibility for Dubai.
Got you.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's going to change and I think it's going to become strict. Because right now it's not.
And I guess with it becoming more strict, the quality should get better, I guess, or...
It should, but it's more of, it's like Darwin's law. You know, the strongest will survive.
Survival of the fittest, yeah. Got you.
Yeah.
Man, I can't imagine. The thing is, there's literally so many here.
Yeah.
It's just, and also there's so many people who are coming here to do it as well.
Yeah.
It's in their future plans.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see it more streamlined. Dubai is relatively a small city compared to other cities. How big do you see it becoming physically? Because there's a lot of desert and people seem to be building a lot. You might know some inside things about what's being built. How big do you see it becoming?
I mean, it's not an inside information. It's a 2040 vision, right, of the Sheikh. So Dubai, I'm sure it's going to span from the border of Abu Dhabi to another border.
Okay, got you.
Yeah.
Got you. Before we wrap up, you posted a video recently, which has got quite a lot of views.
Yes.
Yeah. And just explain the feedback you've been getting from this video and what the context of the video, and then what's been happening with this video.
Yeah, the video was, honestly, I posted it. I never thought that it's going to hit because it's something that I was talking to my friends and I was contemplating about it because I see the way that Dubai moves and I was just expressing my opinion, you know, and factually, like it's supported by facts. You know, I mentioned Deira, I mentioned Sharjah, and I said that basically people who cannot afford, workers who are on basic salary, which is, let's even say 15,000 or 10,000, it's impossible to survive in Dubai at the lifestyle level that Dubai requires. You know, unless you're in a shared room, Like, it's not a life of Dubai. So I said, okay, people are choosing to move to different locations. And I said Deira and I said Sharjah. And because I put them together, people thought that I don't know that Deira is in Dubai. So that's a different conversation. But I said that they were filtering, but I said it as like my own opinion. Now the feedback spans from one end to another end of the spectrum. Some people agree with it, some people hate it. Majority of the people were triggered by what I said, and I think that is the reason it hits, because a lot of people like started talking about it. And most of the comments were from males, which is weird. And people really did not like it. Like, it really did not sit well with them. To the point where at one point I looked at the comments and I saw who they were tagging, like police, and like, you should go to jail for this and go back to your country. Who are you? Like, all of this stuff. Right. And I was like, I was looking up cybercrimes. I was like, did I just commit a cybercrime? Like, am I actually saying something that is punishable? Because of course I don't want to say anything like that. So yeah, it's still going. Till this minute, it's still going, but...
I mean, essentially it's views and this exposure.
See,
and
this is the thing, like, I created I was talking about it in my podcast about women in business. And I said, the minute you start talking, hate is there. And it's even more hate for a woman, because automatically they will say she doesn't know anything. Who is she? If there was a guy who owns 3 companies, big guy, whatever, everyone knows them. If he said the same thing, it wouldn't be the same, But at the end of the day, I show what I show, what I choose to show on social media, because it brings me benefit. Every hate comment, at the end, it pushes my content up.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't take it personally. I learned a long time ago not to pay attention to this. And for me now, it's just entertainment. What do you want to say? Okay, let me answer you. Let me like it. I liked one comment, actually, of a guy who's going ballistic at me. I liked it. He texts me. He's like, don't like this. Who are you to like this? I opened the message. I'm like. Yeah, so it's very funny, because me being on social media and me being so involved in it, I don't have time to comment on people's things.
Of course.
I barely even listen. I'm like, you know what? I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
So, khalas, for people who have time to actually go and say that and reply and get hurt by it, I'm very, very sorry for them. Yeah.
Normally people who post negative things are dealing with something or don't have anything to deal with, or it's a million different things.
But that's the driving force.
Exactly. Last thing now, I think I'm quite interested in legacy.
Okay.
And I think that regardless of whether someone's famous or not, whether they know 10 people or known by 1 million people, we all leave a legacy. What legacy would you like to leave?
That's a very good question. A very thought-provoking question. I would say that being in Dubai and being Central Asian and having experience in Western part of the world, in US, and understanding different mentalities, my legacy for what I'm doing right now would be to make people understand and love Dubai for why I love it. It's not about the fancy lifestyle. It's not about, fancy cars and girls and boys and whatever. It's making sure that people outside can look inside and see, okay, you know what? It's actually very smart people behind it. I like Dubai because it was born before it even hit the ground. The idea was there. everything that's happening now has been planned 15, 20 years ago. And it's not old, it's only 51 years. So imagine what can happen. So with my content, with my presentation of things, I want people to actually think deeper and see behind
the glitz and
the
the
veil
and the shiny, and
you know, because it's all strategic and it's all very, very well thought through. Everything that's happening now, there are big people behind it, not stupid people. And that's what's amazing.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris, so much for having me.